it's now time for the second race of the Gold Arts Magnificent Sevens. And for this one, we'll see number 32, Luke Stevens, start from pole position. Second on the grid, number 42 is Richard Carter. That's how they finished the earlier race, of course, with the 10-place grid penalty for both Group 1 and Group 2 cars. The second row of the grid is the 777 machine of Jonathan Edwards. He'll be joined alongside by the number 12 machine of Nick Starkey for this race. Row 3 then has Chris Mayhew in car number 94, had his first ever race earlier today. Alongside him, number 89 is Bruce Wilson. The fourth row is going to be number 54, which is Simon Lanyon, and alongside him is going to be number 144, which is Julian Kemp. And then the fifth row of the grid, number 71, Jonathan Constable, alongside that of Gary Boone. The sixth row will then see number 81, which is Johnny Pittard. He was the earlier winner, but of course with 10 places added to his grid for this one, he'll start 11th with Sahid Chatterjee alongside. The 7th row is number 15, Stephen Trinder, with 17, Josh Gollin. And then the 8th row of the grid sees 20, Tim Woodman, joined by that of Michael Jacobs, and Richard Green should round out the grid towards the back in the 134 machine.
Yeah, of course, those final three cars on the grid mat are the cars that got tangled up at the very first corner of the race early on. So fingers crossed with either the teams that are running them or the support that they've got here that the parts are available to get them back out there. Probably the largest concern is Tim Woodman, isn't it? Because his car had got front right suspension damage, which would all need replacing. So hopefully he's out there. Yeah,
we'll wait and see. But the cars now, as you can see, working their way through the mid-stage of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, all lined up, ready to go, making sure there's plenty of temperature into those tyres. Of course, there's a bit more power underneath these cars compared to the tin tops, so they'll be able to weave, they'll be able to brake and stop, and they'll be able to make sure that they're ready to go for the rolling start once they get towards the end of this formation lap. But all nicely poised under the safety car, and just seeing hopefully as many of them there as possible. But as you said, Mark, I think we are missing a few from the rear.
Yeah, I can't see the orange car, which would be Tim Woodman, towards the rear of the field. So I think, yeah, my main concerns over him are absolutely just. I couldn't see Richard Green's car there either, so I think we've perhaps lost a couple from this one, which is an enormous shame. But what we have still got is the prospect of seeing Johnny Pittard come from 10 positions further back from where he finished the first race. As the race winner, that's the penalty you pick up. How quickly can he get through the field? And then what kind of battle can he give Luke Stevens, who only missed out, remember, by 92 thousandths of a second in race one?
Certainly did. We spoke to him earlier. He was gunning for the victory, so let's see if he can make this the second race with his first race win of the season. I think there's 13 cars there, so we're missing 4. I think 3 of them are from the back, and there's one also elsewhere on the grid also missing as well, which is a shame. But we are still going to be looking forward to some cracking racing. We saw some great racing earlier on, and unfortunately we had a safety car through that first race, which lost us a good chunk of the first half of the race. So fingers crossed we can stay safety car free this time to give all the drivers a good 20-minute race. And Luke Stevens brings the field down towards the... In fact, is Luke Stevens there?
I did question that in my own mind, as to whether he was there on the grid.
His colours are not, are they?
No, they're not. No, he's not there.
So Richard Carter will be on his own on that front row to lead them away for the second race of the day for the Gold Arts Magnificent Sevens.
Yeah, let's have see what happens then. Richard Carter on his own then on the front row of the grid. It's going to be Jonathan Evans and Nick Starkey on row number 2. So Richard Carter should, in theory, be able to sweep across and take whatever line he wants in towards Copse Corner, as long as he gets his foot on that accelerator as soon as the lights go out. 20-minute race again, remember. No pit window to worry about this time through. Lights are on the gantry. Lights go out. Now watch for the black car with the Dayglow helmet. That is Johnny Pittard, who already has picked off 1 or 2 cars even before he gets to the start line in reality. But it is going to be Jonathan Edwards that leads, actually, up towards Copse Corner for the first time. It's the red car of Jonathan Edwards that leads the way. Who's going to come through in second place? It looks as though it is Richard Carter that's there in second place, but already up to third. Johnny Pittard is up into third place already, having started 10 places lower than he finished, because he was the race 1 winner, and therefore that's the penalty. 10-place grid drop is what you get, but already up to third, and they haven't even got to Maggots.
Yeah, not hanging about at all, is he? So through the field, he's starting to carve his way already. Johnny Pittard there in third position, just behind Richard Carter, who started on the front row, who now starts to come back on Jonathan Edwards here. So it could be 3 wide down off the hanger straight. He's going for a wide line. There is Jonathan Edwards, and all of a sudden the door is left open there by Richard Carter to let Johnny Pittard through. So second place after, what's that, 5 corners, 6 corners about to come, and it's going to be Johnny Pittard, I think, for the lead of the race.
Yeah, well, I think they brought Johnny Petard runs a little bit late, outbreaks himself heading in towards the braking air through the Vale and Club, so not quite, not for the moment. Jonathan Edwards retakes up the lead of the race once more. I don't think Jonathan Edwards and Richard Carter are particularly going to make it hard for Johnny Petard because they know they can't keep with the pace of that car. Let Johnny Petard disappear off into the distance, which is what he's doing now because he's taken the lead of the race, and Jonathan Edwards and Richard Carter can have a good little squabble for what will be second and third place, and remember that will also be a squabble for the lead of Class G as well. And if we can get the car that's in fourth place, Nick Starkey, to join them, that would potentially be a 3-car battle for the lead of Class G, but he's just a little bit further back in fourth currently. Yeah,
he's got his own battle going on as it stands. He's working his way now through the loop and on towards the Wellington Straight for the first time of asking in this 20-minute race, but all nicely through, which is good to see. Johnny Petard comes off the back straight and he's still leading. It's going to be side by side for second once more though. Richard Carter with the inside line. He's going to take the place away, and that's now going to put Jonathan Edwards back into third place. And to be fair, Nick Starkey will want to see this go on for the majority of this race to allow him to come into the mix, although unfortunately for Nick Starkey, he's already lost that place because through has gone Bruce Wilson in the number 89, the dark blue machine, now up into fourth place.
Yeah, that's another Class G car that's gone through to replace Nick Starkey's Class G car, and he will want to try and push on because again he's coming under pressure from driver who makes his debut this weekend in racing cars, Chris Mayhew, who we saw claim a class win earlier on, and he's going to nip up the inside of Nick Starkey there, heading in towards Copse Corner. I think the white car with its day-glow flashes should have made it through. Back to the squabble for second. Richard Carter is still leading in the lime green car, heading round through Maggots and Beckett's, and they're just about to come up towards Chapel. The red car, Jonathan Edwards, still sits there in third place. Bruce Wilson is fourth. Chris Mayhew did make it through in the Dayglow rollover hooped car to fifth position, which means that Nick Starkey is now down into sixth position. Is it Gary Boone is there in seventh place? No, it's going to be Carnival 144. Jolyon Kemp, I think, that's there in seventh.
Yeah, it should be the red car of Jolyon, which is coming down the Hanger Straight next. Yeah, just about ahead at the minute of the number 71 machine, which it might not be for much longer. Jonathan Constable trying to squeeze his way through, which he can't quite do. And in fact, they've switched around, haven't they? Yes, so it's Jolyon Kemp in the orange car, and it's going to be Jonathan Constable in the red machine there. So they are fighting over what's going to be 7th and 8th position, and a big lock up there. In fact, from the number 17 machine is Josh Gollin. So there's been a further change there because Constable has now dropped back a little bit further than where we saw him at the end of that first lap. So the timing screen is not updated. That's what's confusing us, and that's why we've got no graphics for you on the screen at home.
Yeah, timing screen will sort itself out. A few little technical issues up on the second floor of race control. They'll be rebooting the system, and then we'll be able to give you full graphics again once more and actually be able to pick up on exactly what's going on out there on circuit. One thing I can tell you, though, is that Chris Mayhew is now asking a few questions of the blue car of Bruce Wilson, who had a good run in the race earlier on. Did Chris Mayhew to finish in 6th place overall ahead of Bruce Wilson, so he knows he's already got the pace of the car that he's trying to hunt down. Further down through the order, we've still got that little squabble going on as well, which looks as though that was Jolyon Kemp who was coming back under pressure once more. But are we going to see Chris Mayhew get through and ahead of Bruce Wilson? He's looking up the inside, he's heading towards Brooklands. He's got the inside line. Through he goes, place gained.
Yeah, bit of a lock up there as well from Nick Starkey as he came off the Wellington Straight, but all good. Makes the apex of the corner. Doesn't lose too much ground to the two cars ahead of them, but as Mark said, it's now Chris Mayhew ahead of Bruce Wilson. So on the charge they go up towards the line. The race leader already through, by the way, Johnny Petard, leading by 7.5 seconds. So he's well and truly gone once again out front. But this is by far the closest battle on circuit at the minute between Chris Mayhew and Bruce Wilson. They cross the line there, separated by just under 0.4 of a second. So good squabble between those two. They exit the corner again side by side, and it might be now Bruce Wilson to take the place back, although he's not quite on the correct line in towards Maggots. So he has to sit back in tow through Beckett's. And again, he'll have to try and do something through the right-hander of Chapel. But as it stands, Chris Mayhew having a fantastic debut weekend here with the CSCC.
Yeah, he's been hugely impressive, hasn't he, Chris Mayhew? And as he said earlier on, never raced a car before. He's done a bit of motorcycle racing in the past, so I suppose some of that is transferable, but not quite as transferable as something like karting. A spin, I'm afraid, for Jolyon Kemp. He rotates the number 144 machine, gets it pointing in the right direction and will continue. And for Chris Mayhew, well, he's about to lose out once more because Bruce Wilson used the toe all the way down the hanger straight, jinked out from behind the car that was punching the hole in the air for him, and was able to sneak his way through when they got towards Stowe Corner. So it is now Bruce Wilson back up into 4th position, and the number 94 car of Chris Mayhew back down into 5th and in full attack mode once more.
Yep, certainly is. So he'll try again to try and put another move on Bruce Wilson. He's got some good straight line speed, actually, has Chris Mayhew. So he might try at the end of the Lewis Hamilton straight as they work their way down in towards Abbey Corner. But no, Chris Mayhew on this occasion thinks better of it. So Bruce Wilson holds on to that 4th position as it now stands. Some 12 or 15 seconds it may be at the end of this next lap behind the Jonathan Edwards car, but nonetheless they're having a great battle between themselves. Just wondering if Nick Starkey is going to bring himself into this equation, because at the line previous time round it was 2.8 seconds adrift, and he doesn't look too far back on this occasion. So Nick Starkey, with the battling that's happening ahead of him, might be a little bit closer at the end of this lap.
Yeah, let's just see as to whether he can edge up onto the coattails, but his previous lap time he was almost 2 seconds slower than the cars he was trying to close in on. So even if they do battle, they are reliant on Nick Starkey finding a bit more pace, because I don't think they'll be slowing each other down to that same degree. Here comes Josh Gollin up towards the end of the Wellington straight. He's starting to feel the pinch a little bit more. That will be from the Simon Lanyon car that's behind him. Mark drove it in the first race. Simon is driving it in this second race. Over the start-finish line comes the squabble still between Bruce Wilson, who for the moment is still hanging on to 4th place. Chris Mayhew sitting right behind him. Has Nick Starkey closed in? The answer is no, he has not particularly. 0.3 of a second over one car. He's lost 0.3 of a second to another. So is he edging up? I'm not sure he is still.
No, still a little bit of a gap to close down there for Nick Starkey. I think we've just had a change, though, from what's going to be now 7th place, because Simon Lanyon has made his way through. So, yeah, Josh Gollin there in that red machine, dropping back, and it's Simon Lanyon in the 54 car now that works his way through. So, again, great little squabble between these two cars. And, again, if you look just in the background, you'll be able to see Jonathan Constable maybe starting to catch as well. Of course, it's all aided by these two continuing to fight. So, they're relying on those ahead who are slowing each other down. But now can the car of Simon Lanyon start to pull away? Well, of course, when you give that toe to the car behind, it brings that car back into the equation. And again, Josh Gollin looking for a move down in towards the right-hander of Stowe. He goes for it, not quite alongside the high, wide, sweeping line there for Simon Lanyon. Just about keeps him ahead on this occasion.
Yeah, and all of the time, Jonathan Constable will be closing up on this little pair. So Simon Lanyon, Josh Gollin feed their way through the Vale and up towards Club Corner, and arresting times may be ahead, because Constable is beginning to close all of the time on the pair ahead. This is going to be the battle for what will be 7th and 8th place, with Jonathan Constable there in 9th place, edging up all of the time.
Yep, certainly is, as they head their way now in towards the right-hander of Abbey Corner. And last time through, Constable was about 3.4 seconds back. So again, it looks like that gap is much closer than it once was. So I think, yeah, we're going to be bringing Jonathan Constable into this with a three-way fight for what's going to be now 7th position. We're not quite there, still just the 2 at the minute, but I think before too much longer, we're going to have 3 for 7th place as we approach the halfway stage of this race. So almost 10 minutes completed, 10 minutes to go. Johnny Pittard out front now by well over 17 seconds. And there's another battle to keep an eye on there as well, because just behind you can see, heading through your picture, 2 cars not too far apart. That's the number 7 machine, which resides in the hands of Gary Boone this time round. And I think behind him, just on the coattails after his recovering spin, is Jolyon Kemp. In fact, he just got through, hasn't he? So Jolyon under the bridge, now up into 10th place.
Yeah, so Jolyon Kemp goes through. Gary Boone losing the position on that occasion. Jonathan Constable has now fully closed in on the car that he was looking to try and catch up with, which is going to be the car in the hands of Josh Gollin. So Josh Gollin, who used to race, did he not used to race in the Mini Challenge, Josh Gollin, if memory serves me correctly? And looks as though, yeah, he manages to sneak through and up the inside of that number 17 car as they head round through Copse Corner. So place gained for Jonathan Constable. Now having gained 1 place, his attentions will turn to the next position that he's very much focused on trying to catch up with, and that will be the car of Simon Lanyon, the dark blue number 54 car that currently lies ahead, and that car of Simon Lanyon is in 7th.
A different perspective to watch Silverstone from for today as it flies overhead.
I bet it's even chillier up there, you know.
They're getting a bit of a move on though with that wind, aren't they? Which is handy. Good view indeed. Back to the racing though. Jonathan Constable is continuing to close now on Simon Lanyon. Simon had just managed to pull a little bit of a gap over that of Josh Gollin, but all of a sudden this very quick pedaling number 71 machine is working his way nicely through the order, and times for Jonathan Constable 2:25.6, so he's kind of lapping 6th upwards at the minute, so that's where potentially he'd like to end this race. So it's Nick Starkey. Once he gets past Simon Lanyon, he'll be trying to set his eyes on, but as it stands, he's still got that one car to make his way through. So on towards the Lewis Hamilton straight they go, and again good exit speed there for Jonathan Constable. He pulls alongside the car of Simon Lanyon, and will it be a brave move to the inside to take the place away? It surely will be, and there goes Jonathan through and sees him now up into what's going to be 7th place. So 2 positions in 1 lap so far.
Yeah, I'm not sure what class Jonathan Constable is running in, because in race number 1 his class was down as to be confirmed, and it's still down as TBC for this race as well, so I can't really tell you what the progress of his car is in terms of its respective class. All we can do is tell you where it lies overall, which is now in 8th position. Johnny Pittard still continuing on his merry way. He's opened up a 22-second lead now between himself and Richard Carter, who's there in 2nd place, and Jonathan Edwards still there in 3rd position. Bruce Wilson was still there in 4th, but was still being hounded by former motorcycle racer, which is Chris Mayhew, who was tucked right behind him as they came over the start-finish line. Further down through the order, it looks as though Simon Lanyon has not got anything he can offer up in terms of extra pace now that he's lost the place to Jonathan Constable. So we'll have to wait and see as to whether he is going to fall ever more into the clutches of Josh Gollin, who, of course, he lost out to Simon Lanyon a few laps earlier. Yeah,
in terms of the class dilemma for Jonathan Constable, on the entry list, he was entered to Class F, so that kind of puts him where he should be, shouldn't it?
It does, yeah.
In kind of 2nd place behind Chris Mayhew. So that's kind of where he needs to be heading, does Jonathan. And he's only now 1 place further back, because the next one he needs to try and catch is Nick Starkey, who is 5.4 seconds down the road. Last time through, Jonathan Constable was just under 4 seconds a lap quicker. So this is well and truly on with what's now 7 minutes left on the clock. Jonathan Constable is on the charge.
Here comes Chris Mayhew, who's drawing himself back alongside Bruce Wilson. He's not going to be able to do anything as they head down in towards the Vale and through the first aspect of Club Corner. Can he get a bit more momentum coming out of the corner and onto the Lewis Hamilton straight past the wing? So over the start-finish line for the British Grand Prix, they'll go. And then up towards what is turn 1 for the British Grand Prix, but your best part of half the way round on the lap when you use the Heritage Pits, as it's called nowadays, before the reconfiguration of Silverstone. Would you believe 12 years ago since the reconfiguration of the Silverstone circuit? So Bruce Wilson doing a very, very good job of trying to right the wrong of having just lost out to Chris Mayhew in the race earlier on, but the former Ducati motorcycle racer is making sure that the task in hand he is more than up to, and at the moment he's looking as though he's going to get the toe as they head onto the Wellington Straight. Yeah,
very close indeed, isn't it? He comes now on towards the left-hander. They'll appear under the bridge very shortly. And which way does he go? Well, Bruce goes defensive to the inside. Chris goes to the outside in towards the braking zone at Brooklands Corner. That should be the preferred line, but whether there's a way through, I don't think there quite is at the minute. So Chris Mayhew stays in line. He'll try again through the right-hander of Luffield, who then try and get another great slingshot up towards Woodcote, and then try and see if he can do anything down towards Copse Corner. But of course, all the time he sits behind Bruce Wilson, time is ticking away, and it's not seeing him up the road into 4th place. So he'll try again. Bruce Wilson comes across the line. The gap between them that time through is pretty much nothing, because they go on towards this next lap. 1/4 of a second between Wilson and Mayhew, and we'll keep an eye on what Starkey and Constable is, because we know that gap is potentially going to come down as well. So we'll see what Starkey can do in terms of Jonathan Constable, but our eyes firmly focused at the minute between these two for 4th place.
Yeah, last time through they lapped to within about, what was it, 70 thousandths of a second of each other, so their lap times were not quite identical, but not far off. However, this time Chris Mayhew gets a really good slingshot coming out of Chapel Curve and onto the Hanger Straight. He'll sit in the slipstream of Bruce Wilson for as long as he can. He jinks to the right hand side, that gives him the inside line line as they get towards Stowe, but first weekend of racing, he doesn't want to make any enemies. He just wants those signatures on his licence, and no doubt to find somewhere warm after this 20-minute race, because it's cold outside. Can you imagine flying around at 100, 120 miles an hour? Just how cold it is still out there.
Yeah, the wind through your helmet and it just making you even colder, and your hands trying to work. I know you've got gloves on, but it is very, very cold indeed in these cars as it stands. Just looking at the lines that Chris Mayhew was taking down the straights, he tends to pull out of the slipstream a lot earlier than I'd have expected.
Yeah.
He kind of doesn't stay right up to the tail of Bruce Wilson. But again, it's learning. He's only in his second ever race in a car here. So Chris Mayhew, every single race he does, he learns more and more. But for now, he is still glued to the back of Bruce Wilson with some traffic to deal with as they work their way down towards the right-hander once again in towards Village. They'll turn through the left-hander in towards the loop, and he does actually get back to the outside line to get a better slingshot out of the corners, so he's doing that very well indeed, is Chris Mayhew. But again, a little bit further back than he'd wanted to be as they head once more for the 7th time of asking onto the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, massively impressed though with Chris Mayhew. First ever weekend of racing, not raced a car before. So far, touch wood, hasn't put a wheel wrong and is enjoying some good squabbles, and he's got the inside line on Bruce Wilson this time as they head up towards Brooklands, but Bruce just about gets the door closed in time by the time they get to Brooklands. He'll still hang on to it as they head round through Luffield Corner, and if Chris Mayhew is this quick and this competitive, but also this sensible, with all of those boxes being ticked on his first weekend of racing, another full season of racing under his belt, what's he going to be like, Matt?
It'll be interesting, wouldn't it, to see what happens at the end of this season, kind of looking back to this meeting at Silverstone and seeing what he's doing by the time we get to likes of Donington Park and the season finales towards the kind of September and October. So, yeah, keep that one in mind if you're a firm follower of the Classic Sports Car Club. Let's see what Chris Mayhew can do by the time they get towards the final few races of the season. He's doing well at the minute, sits there at currently 5th place, again, all over the back of Bruce Wilson with just under 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, the actual Classic Sports Car Club season concludes in America with races at Daytona and at Sebring. However, the domestic season finishes on the 14th of October up at Croft in North Yorkshire, circuit we've not visited for a few years now. Chris Mayhew again gets that good propel momentum coming out of Chapel. This time he's going to squeeze his way up the inside of Bruce Wilson at Stowe Corner. Now again, can't quite manage to do so. So Wilson still manages to hang on to 4th place despite the very best efforts of Tom Mayhew, who again is too far back to have a nibble as they head through the Vale and in towards the Club Chicane and Club Corner. So the order remains the same, and all of this whilst our race leader Johnny Pittard has now opened up nearly a 30-second advantage between himself and the number 42 car of Richard Carter, who's there in 2nd position, and we've only got 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think Johnny's just gone on to his last lap of the race with the time we have left. So these guys that we're currently watching, working their way through this half a lap, and then now be heading on to the last lap of the race as well. But can Chris Mayhew open the door to Bruce Wilson yet again? At the minute, it doesn't look that likely, does it? Because the gap has grown just slightly by a few tenths of a second. But Chris Mayhew still has time to play with here to try and get himself back up into 4th position. As it stands, it will still be a win within his class for Chris Mayhew, but he'd like to go one better and try and find himself back up there into 4th position. Meantime, the car we were looking earlier on at, Jonathan Constable, hasn't made any progress. In fact, he's lost now the place to Simon Lanyon once again. So Simon Lanyon is now the man on the move. Nick Starkey is his next target, and you can see there Jonathan Constable now finds himself down in 8th position behind that number 54 machine. So something has happened, unfortunately, for Jonathan, and a bit of a mistake there for Nick Starkey, which puts him out wide through the loop. And I think that will give the invitation for Simon Lanyon to go through up another position, now into 6th place. Yeah,
difficult thing is if you run wide at Aintree and have to get off the gas, you then lose all of your momentum down the Wellington Straight. But I think Nick Starkey somewhat got away with that, probably by the skin of his teeth more than anything else, because he was able to hang on to the place, and then they met a little bit of a back marker, which has slightly delayed Simon Lanyon, who's still doing battle with Jonathan Constable, who's now going to try all the way around the outside at Luffield Corner. Surely that isn't going to work. Now Simon Lanyon gets a better exit out of Luffield, which puts Nick Starkey back under pressure. So they're all busy squabbling away. Brilliant battle for what is 6th, 7th and 8th positions, whilst our race leader Johnny Pittard is now a long way round his final lap of the race, because we're into the final 10 seconds before he's in the checkered flag.
Yeah, just a matter of seconds away for the checker flag for Johnny Pittard as these 3 cars now head on to their last lap of the race. And this one is definitely not done. So 3 cars all vying over what's going to be 6th position, but which order will it finish in? Well, time will tell in just under 2 minutes' time, but up towards the checker flag is going to come very shortly. That of Johnny Pittard. It's been a sterling drive from 11th on the grid. He comes through the final corner up towards the line, takes the checker flag, and Johnny Pittard is going to win by somewhat, I think, 30 seconds or more.
Yeah, so Johnny Pittard comes through. 2 out of 2 for Johnny Pittard. It's a shame we didn't see Luke Stevens out for the second race, but this battle that we've still got going on for 6th place, it is Simon Lanyon for the moment that stamped his authority on 6th place. Nick Starkey, I think, might lose a further place on the exit of Stowe Corner as Jonathan Constable manages to work his way through. So Constable now is a further place up from when he started this lap, and poor old Nick Starkey has dropped from 6th, not to 7th, but down into 8th position. Johnny Pittard is the race winner. Richard Carter comes through to take the checkered flag in 2nd place. Completed the podium, should be car number 777, Jonathan Edwards, as you watch of the final battle heading around what is the last half of the race, last half of the lap.
Yeah, Simon Lanyon will be looking in his rearview mirror saying, yep, you carry on fighting, guys, let me get away, and I'll take this very deserved 6th place in the race. But Jonathan Constable is not having anything to do with that, because he wants to fight right towards the checker flag here as the gap comes down once more between him and Simon. I think Nick Starkey is maybe just a little bit out of the realms of catching now, but of course if anything happens between those two down towards the likes of Brooklands and Luffield, then Nick Starkey will be the first man to pick up the pieces. Whilst they continue to fight, both Bruce Wilson and Chris Mayhew have come through in 4th and 5th. Those two were separated by just over a 10th of a second at the line, so a fantastic squabble from start to finish there between Bruce Wilson and Chris Mayhew. And for what's going to be 6th position, we'll pick up the trio of cars through the final corner very shortly. And with that, who is it going to be? It's going to be, by the looks of it, that of Simon Lanyon, who is just about going to hang on. Although saying that, Jack Constable is going to have a good go to try and slipstream him up towards the line. As the checker flag falls for those two cars, it will be Simon Lanyon who picks up 6th place, 2nd in Class F, 7th place for number 71, Jonathan Constable, and 8th place for number 12, which is Nick Starkey. So a nice dash there to the line between those 3 cars, and then we'll just wait for the last couple of cars to come through, which should be Josh Gollum in 9th position, and for 10th place on his recovery drive, as we said after that spin, should be Jolyon Kemp in what's going to be 10th place. But in the end, another fantastic win for that of Johnny Pittard. It was a dominant win this time round, not quite the battle we had between him and Luke Stevens in the earlier race, but nonetheless, Johnny Pittard worked his way through on that first lap, and by the time they got down towards the left-hander of Vale, he was pretty much into the lead of the race, wasn't he? So it didn't take him long to extend that gap and pull it out over himself and the second place man, which was Richard Carter, who started in 2nd place and came through to finish in 2nd as well. So the end of the Gold Arts Magnificent Sevens, they are done for the day. The second race for them sees the win go the way of Johnny Pittard after slightly more laps this time round, 9 laps in total, wins the race by just over 36 seconds from Richard Carter. Jonathan Edwards gets himself into 3rd place, picks up 2nd within Class G, just ahead of fellow competitor Bruce Wilson in that class. He was a further 26 seconds back. Chris Mayhew on his debut weekend in racing picks up another Class win, Class F victory, and 5th place overall, just ahead there of Simon Lanyon, who won the trio of the battle between Jonathan Constable and Nick Starkey in 8th position. Josh Gollin was in 9th, just ahead of Jolyon Kemp, and then for 11th place it was the car of Gary Boone. 12th place for Sahid Chatterjee, and 13th place that of Stephen Trinder. So all 13 that started managed to make it to the checker flag at the end of what has been a great race for the Gold Arts Magnificent Sevens. As we move through the season, we look forward to seeing many more competitors on the grid for this series of races. 2 more races still to come here at Silverstone today. We're back to the normal 40-minute encounters. We've got the Modern Classics and Future Classics on the way very shortly. And to round out the day here at Silverstone, the Liqui Moly Slicks series, which will be on the way just before 5 o'clock. For now, though, we're going to head back downstairs to Mark in the pit lane with our winners.
So that's 2 out of 2 for Jonathan Pittard in the Gold Arts Magnificent Sevens. Once more, he's brought the number 81 car to pit lane as a victorious car. It was close in race number 1 between himself and Luke Stevens, just 92 thousandths of a second. But in the absence of Luke Stevens, who should have started from pole position in race number 2, Johnny Pittard was able to get his head down, charge away, and build up a very substantive lead indeed. We've also got Richard Carter joining us in the pit lane, and once more, We've also got Chris Mayhew, so we're going to grab a quick word with all three of them. Let's wander down and grab a word with Johnny Pittard to start with. Johnny, come and join us again if you will, please. Come on this way. Come on.
Thank you.
Johnny, congratulations, 2 out of 2. We were hoping for a good little squabble between yourself and Luke Stevens in that race, but he decided that he, for whatever reason, couldn't make the grid.
The car sold to it, so the car found a new owner. So impressed with its performance in race 1 that he sold the car so he couldn't run it. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it actually.
You didn't take long to get going. No. You were up to second by the first corner and almost in the lead by the end of Hanger Straight.
Yeah, I had a good run. The pack sort of strayed to the left a bit and gave me a clear run up the inside into Copse. So yeah, what a treat it is to come here at the GP track on a sunny day and have free rein, just the 7s running out. It was fantastic, so loved it.
And what sort of difference, because we know whilst we don't like the cold weather, cars and engines like the cold weather. What difference does it make, this kind of weather we've got today?
The car did feel strong, still feel strong. It's a brand new rebuilt engine by Rob's dad. David, if you're at home watching, nice work. So he's done a fantastic job. It's a fresh engine, so it's feeling very strong here. Yeah, wonderful. It's made for this place.
Onto Snetterton next as well, another quick circuit. That's one that you're looking forward to. You're heading towards Norfolk in a few weeks?
Very much, although I think I'm quite far to the back of the grid, aren't I?
You'll give yourself another 10-place grid penalty for sure.
If it's a rolling start, I'm optimistic I can make up some places. But
well done on the 2 wins.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there we go, that's our race winner, Johnny Pittard. Let's grab a quick word with Richard Carter if we can. Richard, who had a busy old race with Jonathan Edwards, who was keeping you honest. He was ahead of you, you were ahead of him, and that was the way it played out.
Well, I really have to work on my starts, I think, because he's jumped me twice now. But I managed to get him back in the same place I did in the first race, which is at the bottom of the Wellington Straight. And then after that, it was just a question of keeping the gap.
You managed to sort of keep that gap, but he was always there or thereabouts. Any small mistake, he'd have been right back on you.
Absolutely, yeah. You still have to focus. Even though you're out or seemingly on your own, you still have to stay focused.
And we're talking about, how cold it is for the marshals out there. You're flying around at 100+ miles an hour. Yes, you've got a race suit on. Yes, you've got a crash helmet on, but it can't be that warm still.
It is quite warm in the cockpit, yeah. But I noticed the difference when I put my arm up at the end to wave to the marshals. I thought, whoa, that's chilly. But yeah, it is warm in the cockpit.
Enjoyable day's work?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well done, Richard. Well done. And let's wander down and grab a quick word with Chris Mayhew again, who we spoke to earlier on today. Chris, it's your first weekend of racing, and already you're making a habit out of this.
I know, we've done the clean sweep, really, and I qualified pole and taken the 2 wins, so it's remarkable. All credit to the guys at Boss Racing for giving me a fantastic car. It's made the job easy for me. And yeah, what can I say? I'm lost for words, literally.
How transferable do you think it is from the stuff that you've done in the past on 2 wheels, whether it be in the Ducatis or other things? How transferable is it into 4 wheels?
I personally find it very, obviously, it seems to there's something there. People have done it in the past, and it's worked for me this weekend. I think if you've got an understanding of race and feel, I think the biggest thing is the relationship between the tyres and the tarmac. And if you can take that relationship from motorcycle racing and take it to car racing, I think that makes you quite a quick car driver. Because if you understand that relationship, it's quite, you can go quickly in a car. Because I know what it feels like to slide a motorcycle. And so if I can slide a bike, then sliding a car is like a fun day out for me. And yeah, obviously, clearly it works.
Well, if you're already this quick on your first weekend of racing, we look forward to what you like at your final weekend of racing this year. Well done.
Thank you very much indeed.